Fed up with Angelica's treatment of them, the rugrats find Josh, a new friend to play with. Angelica threatens to put sand on their heads, but Tommy says they are tired of her bossing them around, and they go to Josh. Playing with Josh starts okay, but it turns out, however, that he's meaner than Angelica, forces them to push him on the swing, takes their cookies, offering them a dirty lollipop to share with Chucky, Phil, and Lil instead, threatens to hit them. Josh eats all the chocolate chip cookies. Soon, the babies are forced to build a moat for Josh, realizing that Angelica is actually preferable to Josh. Tommy decides to go to Angelica, but Chucky warns him about Josh finding out. Tommy doesn't care because if they do something now, they will be stuck with Josh forever. He sneaks over to where Angelica is and tells her that Josh is worse than her, about how badly he treats them. Angelica is shocked by this but refuses to help them because they had abandoned her to play with Josh. Tommy sadly goes back to the other playground, and Josh finds out what Tommy did. He decides to play a game called Pillow, where he pushes the babies down on the sand and goes to the swing. Tommy worriedly asks Josh if Josh is going to jump over them, but Josh reassures him that he's not. He's going to jump on them. Before Josh can do so, however, Angelica steps in and launches a water balloon at Josh with her catapult in her wagon. The babies are relieved that she's back. Angelica tells him to get up, but Josh orders them back down, saying the babies are now his. Angelica says that they are not and launches another water balloon at him. Josh tries to convince her that she doesn't want the babies anyway, as they're just dumb, but Angelica says that they may be true because they're her dumb babies. Josh says he's not afraid of her, but Angelica launches another water balloon at him. Josh then offers to split the babies 50-50, with Angelica getting 2 and him keeping the other 2. But Angelica refuses, saying she won't leave until she gets all the babies. She pushes Josh, causing him to scrape his arm. Josh runs away crying to his mother. Everything is back to normal. As punishment for leaving her, Angelica makes the babies dig through the sand like she was making them do at the beginning, but they don't mind it, as it's better than being with Josh at least. It's dinner time at Charlotte and Drew's house, where they try to get Angelica to eat her broccoli. Angelica refuses to the point that Drew says she will not have seconds on dessert. Protesting on this, Angelica throws her plate against the wall and at Drew's shadow. Drew furiously orders her to her room, and when Angelica tries to talk her way out of punishment, Charlotte told her that they tried to reason with her but wouldn't listen. Angelica starts to leave the room but pauses and says they'll be sorry, which surprises Charlotte and Drew. Later, the two of them are going to bed. Drew wonders what Angelica meant by her saying, "You'll be sorry." Charlotte points out that a 3-year-old girl isn't going to do much. Drew agrees, though concerned with how smart they've raised her, and falls asleep. In Angelica's room, having been grounded for what happened earlier, she complained to Cynthia like a teenager that the adults always get to decide everything, and she tries to come up with a way to get back at her parents. She sees an ad on TV for a lawyer named F. Lee Barnum, who claims to deal with family issues, and Angelica has an idea. The next day, Mr. Barnum arrives at the Pickles house, asking to see Miss Angelica Pickles. Drew thinks there's been a mistake, as Angelica is only 3 years old, but Angelica appears and escorts Mr. Barnum to her room, informing Drew she's suing him and Charlotte. After a discussion, Mr. Barnum promises Angelica that he can have the parents kicked out of the house. They are permanently banned going to the mat of this court and all sent to jail permanently and gain lots of money for both him and Angelica. As a result, Angelica agrees to this. After Mr. Barnum leaves, Charlotte tries to bribe Angelica so she won't sue them. Angelica turns Charlotte's words from dinner on her and reveals she's recording the conversation so her mom will look bad in court. Charlotte and Drew decide to meet with their own lawyer, Jay Hershowitz. Hershowitz explains to the Pickles adults that this can be settled outside of court if they agree to Angelica's demands. Charlotte and Drew listen to some of Angelica's demands. Her demands are so ridiculous they refuse to give him, so they're all going to the mat of this court. The day of the trial arrives, which is heavily covered by the press. Angelica is being severely selfish, mistreated, and punishment, and crying about never getting just a little ice cream or a toy every now and then with the news microphone and gives her a uber sucker lollipop. Outside the courthouse, the reporters favor and pity Angelica and see Charlotte and Drew as unreasonable and cruel. The trial begins. Barnum is questioning Charlotte first, but Angelica feels he's doing terribly in making her mother look good, so she fires him. Mr. Barnum says he didn't like to work for Angelica anyways, and Angelica is allowed to represent herself. Angelica calls a new witness to the stand, Cynthia. Hershowitz objects and points out Cynthia is just a doll, but the judge, like the press, favors Angelica and allows her to continue. Through Cynthia, Angelica explains a very different version of events at dinner, which portrays Angelica as good and her parents as cruel. Angelica calls more toys as witnesses, allowing her to recall many times of her parents' unfairness. Later, Hershowitz calls Angelica as a witness for the defense, where she openly mocks him. The judge accuses Hershowitz of not being nice in his questioning and not kindly directs Angelica to answer his questions. She still does not properly comply, but almost everybody finds her endearing. Finally, Angelica cross-examines Drew. She asks her father for what she wanted the most for her last birthday, which is the big train from Toy Palace that you can ride on. Angelica asks Drew who got her the train. He admits no. Everybody is disgusted with him, even though he explains the toy store was sold out. The judge then says to Drew that he thinks he ought to be ashamed of himself. Everyone agrees and jeers. Drew then shouts that this is not a courtroom but a three-ring circus, and all he wanted to be was a good father. The judge warns that he finds Drew in contempt of court and that he will be escorted from the courtroom if he speaks out of turn again. The jury rules in favor of Angelica, awarding her everything her parents owned. Drew becomes shocked and again tries to explain he is being a good father, which then leads to the judge ordering Drew to be removed from the courtroom and arrested for contempt of court. Drew screams that he is a good father, and the bailiff escorts him out of the courtroom. Moments later, Drew is sitting up in bed. It was all a dream. He wakes up Charlotte and tells her about his dream, where Angelica was mad about the broccoli and she sued and brought them to court permanently. Charlotte tells him it was just a bad dream and he should go back to sleep as it is 3 a.m. Feeling guilty and worried, Drew goes to Angelica's room and is able to apologize. Says he didn't mean to upset her by trying to force her to eat broccoli and promises her to allow her to try foods at her own pace. Drew heads back to his bed and Angelica pulls out a piece of paper featuring the food pyramid. Angelica crosses off broccoli, revealing that not only did she plan for Drew to do this, but she's done it several times before, and her goal is to end up eating only cookies. She thinks to me and laughs. Works every time.